There comes a moment in life, not always dramatic, not always marked with fireworks, when the air shifts. Something breaks inside us quietly. It could be a diagnosis, a loss, a betrayal, or a stretch of days so numbing that you forget what laughter sounds like. In that moment, you might be tempted to say, hope. That's for people who have options. But I want to tell you that hope is not a luxury reserved for the lucky. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows when you use it, even especially when it hurts. Staying hopeful is not about forcing positivity or ignoring your reality. It's about choosing deliberately to keep your heart open even when it's easier to close it off. That doesn't mean you don't fall apart. It means you fall apart and still show up. You show up tired, anxious, maybe a little bitter, but you show up anyway. That is the most courageous kind of hope. The one that looks fear in the eye and still says, not today. I'm not giving up today. I've learned that vulnerability isn't the thing to fear, it's the thing to lean into. Vulnerability is where hope begins. It's where we say, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm willing to stay in the discomfort long enough to see what's on the other side. That moment, when we stop hiding and start being real with ourselves and others, is often the most eye-opening experience of our lives. Not because it's easy, but because it strips away everything we thought we needed to be strong, and shows us we were strong all along. Resilience doesn't come from pretending we're okay. It comes from allowing ourselves to say, I'm not okay right now, and trusting that we won't stay there forever. It grows in the quiet conversations with ourselves when we say, this is hard, but I'm still here, and if I'm still here, I still have a shot. That's hope, not a shiny Instagram quote. A gritty, raw, honest thing we build one breath at a time. Hope comes alive when we stop trying to go it alone. When we reach out awkwardly, imperfectly, and say, I need someone to sit with me in this. The truth is, we were never meant to carry it all by ourselves. Connection doesn't solve the problem, but it reminds us we're not the only ones facing it. And that reminder is everything. It keeps us afloat when we feel like we're drowning. The most eye-opening experience of your life won't always be a mountaintop moment. It might be a slow realization while crying in your car that you are still here, still breathing, still trying. That counts, that matters. Hope lives in that moment, not because you're fine, but because you're still fighting to believe you could be. That's what it means to stay hopeful, not to be unbreakable, but to be beautifully, bravely breakable and still believe in what comes next. So if you're in that moment, the one that feels unbearable, uncertain, unspeakably hard, I won't tell you to be grateful for it, but I will tell you this, you are not alone, and this could be the moment that changes you, not by erasing your pain, but by awakening a new kind of strength you never knew you had. That's not wishful thinking. That's hope, real, wild, and yours if you're willing to hold on just a little longer. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to stay open. That is how hope survives. That is how you do the most eye-opening thing you'll ever do in your life. You keep going. Hope gets misunderstood a lot. People treat it like a mood or a kind of luck some people are born with. She's just hopeful by nature, they say, as if it's a trait tucked into someone's DNA. But real hope, the kind that sustains you when everything is uncertain or crumbling, is not a personality type. It's a choice. It's a behavior. It's a discipline. Hope is something we do, not just something we feel. It's easy to be hopeful when things are going well, when the path is clear, when your plans are unfolding just the way you imagined. But when life blindsides you, when the call comes, the job ends, the door closes, the relationship falls apart, that's when you learn what kind of practice hope really is. In those moments, you don't stumble into hope by accident. You choose it one breath at a time, and it doesn't look like a pep talk or a motivational quote. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed even when you don't want to. Sometimes it's sending one more email, making one more phone call, taking one more shower, saying I don't know what's next, and still showing up anyway. Hope isn't soft, it isn't naive, it's gritty. It's forged in the middle of uncertainty and fear, and it doesn't require you to know how the story ends. It only asks that you stay in the story. It says you don't have to know the outcome. You just have to stay open to the possibility that things can change. That's what makes it a practice. It's the conscious decision to turn toward the future, even when the present is unclear, even when the past is still aching in your chest. And like any practice, it's not perfect. You'll miss days. You'll have mornings when you forget how to believe in anything. That doesn't mean you've failed at hope. It means you're human. Practicing hope is about starting again, and again, and again. Not because you're certain, but because you refuse to give up on the chance that something better could exist. It's a way of moving through the world, not with blind optimism, but with courageous persistence. Hope doesn't erase pain. It doesn't cancel grief or dismiss what you've been through. It just says, even so, I'll try again. It makes space for the truth of your struggle and still holds a seat at the table for what could be. And maybe the most radical part of all is this: hope does not require evidence. It only requires a willingness to keep breathing, to keep caring, to keep going. There's a reason we avoid vulnerability like it's a burning house. It makes us feel exposed, weak, soft. The world teaches us to armor up, to stay in control, to not let them see you sweat, or cry, or shake, or wonder if you're enough. But what no one tells you soon enough is that everything worth feeling, everything that brings depth to life, starts with vulnerability. Love, joy, belonging, creativity, courage, and yes, hope. They're all born in that same raw, uncertain space. If you've ever hoped for something deeply, you know what I mean. To hope is to admit you care. It's to let your guard down and say, this matters to me. That's why it's so scary, because it opens you up to the possibility of loss, disappointment, shame. Vulnerability asks you to stand in the middle of that emotional risk and say, I still choose to believe. Not because you have guarantees, but because you know that living a life without hope is more painful than risking your heart again. We live in a culture that praises independence, hustle, and certainty, but hope does not grow in that soil. Hope grows in the moments when you let someone in and say, I'm scared and I don't know what to do. It grows when you tell the truth, not the polished, rehearsed version, but the trembling, honest one. It grows when you say, I'm not okay, not for attention, but because you're done pretending. That moment of truth, telling, that moment of softening your armor, is the beginning of everything. Not because it solves your problems, but because it invites connection, and connection is where hope breathes. Vulnerability doesn't promise comfort. What it promises is realness, and what's so beautiful, so disarming about it, is that it invites others to put their armor down too. When we share our real fears, our quiet prayers, our shaky dreams, we say to each other, you're not alone, and that, right there, that shared space is sacred. It's where we start to remember that even if the path forward is uncertain, we don't have to walk it alone. Hope without vulnerability is just performance. It's pretending, but hope with vulnerability, that's alive, that's brave. That's the kind of hope that survives setbacks and disappointments because it was never based on perfection. It was based on truth. And the truth is this: when we allow ourselves to be seen not just in our strengths but in our mess, we give ourselves permission to feel what we most need to feel: possibility. Because even when things are unclear, vulnerability says, I'm still here, I still care, and I'm still reaching for something better. And that is exactly where hope begins. There's a misconception about resilience that I want to clear up right now. It's not about being tough all the time, about stuffing your feelings down, or bouncing back instantly like nothing happened. Real resilience doesn't come from pushing through pain by pretending it's not there. It grows from the opposite. It grows when we actually let ourselves feel what we're feeling, deeply and honestly. We live in a world that teaches us to fear emotions like sadness, fear, anger, or despair. We're told to keep it together, to be strong, as if feeling deeply makes us weak. But the truth is, resilience is born in those moments when we stop running from our feelings and instead let them in, like visitors at the door. We sit with them, uncomfortable and unsure, and slowly begin to understand what they have to teach us. This process isn't easy. It's messy, slow, and often painful. When grief or disappointment or anxiety wash over us, our first instinct might be to shut down or look for quick fixes. But resilience asks us to do something radically different. To stay present with the pain, to name it, to breathe into it. Because when we allow ourselves to feel fully, we start to uncover something unexpected: strength. Strength not because we ignored the storm, but because we walked through it. Strength not because we were invincible, but because we were vulnerable enough to face the hard truths. That's what makes resilience so powerful. It's not about how quickly you recover, but about how deeply you engage with your experience, even the parts you wish you could avoid. And here's what I've learned. Feeling deeply is the only way to heal deeply. When we allow ourselves to experience the full spectrum of emotions, we build a foundation that can hold more than just the easy days. We build a foundation strong enough to carry hope forward. Resilience isn't a trophy you win after the storm passes. It's a practice that happens in the quiet spaces where you acknowledge your fears, your doubts, and your pain, It's the steady voice inside that says, I'm still here, even when everything inside feels broken. It's the small, brave choice to wake up and try again, even if you're not sure how or why. When you let yourself feel, you start to realize that your story isn't about how many times you fell down. It's about how many times you had the courage to get back up. And every time you do, you're weaving hope into the fabric of your life. You're saying to yourself and the world, this is hard, but I am still here. I am still fighting. I am still hoping. So resilience, real resilience, grows not from denial or avoidance, but from the willingness to feel your feelings fully and use them as fuel to keep moving forward. It's the gritty, beautiful proof that hope is alive, and sometimes that's the most eye-opening experience of all. If there's one thing life has taught me, it's that growth and clarity rarely come wrapped in comfort and ease. The moments that change us, those shifts in perspective that open our eyes wide, are often the moments that feel most uncomfortable, unsettling, even downright painful. And yet, those are the moments we resist the most. It's a strange paradox, the very experiences that shake us to our core, that make us question everything we thought we knew about ourselves and the world, are exactly the experiences that wake us up. They're like a jolt that forces us to stop sleepwalking through life, to sit with discomfort long enough to see what's really there underneath the surface. Think about the times when your heart was breaking, or when you felt lost, or when you realized you couldn't keep pretending anymore. Maybe it was a failure that shattered your confidence, a conversation that exposed a truth you'd been avoiding, or a season of uncertainty that made you question your worth. Those moments hurt, they hurt like hell. But they also crack open the space for new understanding. Discomfort is the doorway. It's the signal that something inside you is being transformed, and the truth is, staying hopeful in those moments isn't about making the pain disappear. It's about learning to sit with the pain without being swallowed by it. It's about developing a tolerance for uncertainty and trusting that what feels unbearable right now is not the whole story. The eye-opening experience isn't always a grand, sweeping revelation. Sometimes it's a quiet, almost invisible shift. A small change in how you see yourself, your situation, or your future. It might be the moment you stop blaming yourself, or the moment you realize you don't have to do it all alone, or the moment you accept that it's okay to not be okay. These are uncomfortable truths, but they're also the seeds of hope. And here's what makes those moments so powerful. They strip away the illusions we cling to. They challenge us to be honest with ourselves about our fears, our limitations, and our needs. That honesty, as hard as it is, creates space for something new. A deeper, more resilient hope that isn't dependent on circumstances, but on a commitment to keep going anyway. So yes, the most eye-opening experience of your life might feel like the hardest thing you've ever faced. It might make you want to turn away, to give up, to shrink back into what feels safe. But if you stay present in that discomfort, if you allow yourself to feel it fully and learn from it, you will come out on the other side with eyes wide open, and a hope that is stronger, wiser, and more real than anything you've known before. When everything feels heavy, when hope seems distant and the future is hazy, there's a powerful truth that can sometimes get lost in the noise. We are not meant to walk through the hardest parts of life alone. Connection isn't just a nice to have, it's a lifeline. It's the thread that pulls us back from the edge when despair threatens to pull us under. There's something deeply human about needing other people. It's not a weakness. It's a fundamental part of who we are. And when the world feels cold or overwhelming, it's the connections we nurture. The friends who listen without judgment, the family who holds space for our pain, the strangers who show unexpected kindness. That remind us that we are still seen, still valued, still worthy of love. But connection can feel so hard when you're in a dark season. It might feel easier to close the blinds, to hide your face, to tell yourself no one would understand. Vulnerability in these moments feels risky, like a dangerous gamble that could leave you even more exposed. But the truth is, connection is the place where hope is born and sustained. It's where your story becomes less heavy because someone else carries a piece of it with you. The moments when you reach out, even hesitantly, awkwardly, unsure if you'll be met with understanding, are moments of incredible courage, because to connect is to say, I don't have all the answers, I'm struggling and I need you. And when someone responds with empathy, when they show up not with quick fixes but with presence, it reminds you that you are not isolated in your pain or your hope. Connection doesn't erase the hard parts. It doesn't fix the problems overnight, but it gives you something just as essential, belonging. Belonging whispers the message that no matter what you're facing, you are not a burden, you are human, and humans were built for togetherness. When we lean into connection, even on our worst days, we build a safety net that catches us when we stumble and lifts us when we can't lift ourselves. Sometimes connection comes in small moments, a text, a hug, a shared silence. Sometimes it's in deep conversations that unravel the tangled threads inside us. But no matter the shape it takes, connection fuels hope. It's a reminder that even in the darkest night, we are not alone. And that truth, that reminder, is often the most eye-opening experience of all. There's a huge difference between hope and denial. Too often, hope gets mistaken for putting on a brave face, glossing over the hard parts, or telling yourself everything is fine when it's not. But true hope isn't about pretending you're okay. It's not about lying to yourself or painting a rosy picture over a cracked reality. It's far messier than that. Hope is about looking squarely at the brokenness, the pain, the uncertainty, and deciding anyway that you will keep looking for a way forward. Hope is a stubborn, fierce thing. It doesn't ask for permission or wait for perfect conditions. It lives right there in the mess, in the hospital waiting room, the empty bank account, the quiet house after the laughter has gone. It's the quiet voice inside that whispers, "I don't know how, but I believe there is a way." And sometimes that voice is trembling. Sometimes it's almost drowned out by fear, doubt, or exhaustion. But it keeps whispering anyway. Holding onto hope doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you're willing to live with uncertainty and still keep moving. It means embracing the discomfort of not knowing, of not being in control. It means saying, "I don't have it figured out. I might fail, I might fall, but I am willing to try." That's real courage, and here's what makes hope so powerful. It's an act of resistance against despair. When everything inside you screams to give up, hope says, "Not yet." It's the choice to keep your heart open, to keep your hands reaching, even when the world tries to convince you that you should close them. Hope invites you to stay curious, to keep asking questions, to keep imagining a different future, even if it looks fragile or distant, because hope isn't about certainty. It's about faith and possibility. It's about knowing that no matter how dark things get, you have the strength to keep going. And that sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough. Enough to carry you through the night, enough to greet the dawn, enough to begin again. So if you find yourself in the middle of a storm, don't mistake hope for pretending. Instead, hold on to it as the quiet rebellion it is. The decision to believe in a way forward even when you can't see it yet. That decision, right there, might just be the most eye-opening experience of your life. So here's what I want you to carry with you. Hope is not some distant, magical feeling that shows up only when everything is perfect. Hope is a daily, sometimes minute-by-minute choice. It's a practice rooted in vulnerability, fueled by resilience, and sustained by connection. It asks us to lean into discomfort, to embrace uncertainty, and to keep showing up even when it feels impossible. The most eye-opening experience of your life may come not in a single moment of triumph, but in the quiet courage of choosing to stay open, to keep feeling, keep reaching out, and keep believing that there is more to your story than the pain or fear you're facing right now. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to pretend you're okay. You just have to be willing to hold onto hope with your whole messy, brave heart. That willingness, that fierce, stubborn refusal to give up, is where real hope lies. It's where healing begins. It's where the next chapter starts. So when the days feel dark and the path is uncertain, remember this. Hope isn't about knowing the way. It's about trusting that you have the strength to keep moving forward, one small step at a time. And sometimes that trust is the most radical, eye-opening experience you'll ever have. Keep going. Keep hoping. Keep being brave enough to believe in what might be even when it's hard to see. Because your hope, your story, your life, they are worth it.